Hello one and all, my name is Ryan Bruce. My friends call me Fluff, and today on Riffs, Beards, and Gear, we're gonna shoot out a couple of Les Pauls. The Gibson Les Paul is obviously a legendary guitar. However, there are a few different current trim models in the 2022-2023 Gibson guitar line, and I own one of each of those trim lines, and I thought it would be fun to kind of compare them. And before we go any further, I would like to thank the sponsor of this video, Sweetwater, for providing 2 of the 3 guitars used in today's video. Head on over to sweetwater.com. There's my affiliate link down below in the description if you would like to go shopping to your heart's content on anything guitars or Gibson related. But all thoughts and opinions are mine. Now, the 3 Les Pauls we are going to be comparing today is the 1950s Gibson Les Paul Standard. We will also be comparing a 60s Les Paul Standard, as well as my Slash November Burst Les Paul Standard. Now, there are timestamps down below in the description if you would like to skip around and just skip right to the comparison tests. However, I thought it would kind of be beneficial to go over each of these guitars. Now, when it comes to these 3 guitars, there are a lot of common features between all 3 of these, namely the 12-inch neck radius, the mahogany body, the nut material. What is different about these is the pickups in each of these models, as well as the neck width. Interestingly enough, the Slash is a little narrower than the 60s and 50s guitars. However, each one of these guitars has a different set of pickups, which is pretty interesting. Now, while the 50s Les Paul Standard has burst bucker 1 and 2 pickup sets, the 60s Les Paul has 60s burst bucker pickups, which I don't even know what those are, and the Slash guitar has custom burst bucker pickups, which sound wildly different than these 2 guitars, which you will see here in just a minute. Those are the main differences between these. These guitars have the same fret size, they have the same body woods, and I will note that the 50s Les Paul Standard, this 50s Les Paul Standard, is 10 pounds, whereas these other guitars are right around 8.5 or 9 pounds. However, all of these guitars are strung with Ernie Ball 10 through 52 skinny top, heavy bottom, and every guitar is tuned to drop D. Now, for this first test, we are going to use a clean tone, and I will be utilizing my Mesa Boogie Mark IV for the clean tone. This amplifier gets really clean. It's not crazy Roland JC120 clean. However, it's pretty damn clean. And I will be playing the same riff with each guitar, and then I will be switching between them in post. It's not a full mix or anything like that. This is just me plugging into the amp and playing along to a click track and then aligning them in post and just switching between them. The song is obviously Foo Fighters' Everlong, the main riff on that song. And yeah, let's do the clean shootout. Okay, so now we are going to compare all 3 Les Pauls using a crunch tone. And for the crunch tone, I will be utilizing my Marshall 1987X reissue Plexi amplifier. This amplifier is bridged on the inputs. However, the volume is down a little bit. There is no gain control on this amplifier. It just sounds how it sounds. But I basically have a little bit of the high treble and a little bit of the regular channels blended together, about a 50-50, maybe a 60-40 blend, just so you guys have some kind of a reference. But this is kind of a crunchier tone than the clean tone, but not quite a high gain tone. Once again, let's go ahead and choose the Everlong riff, and I will be switching between each of these Les Pauls. Here's a crunch tone. And finally, let's go ahead and compare all three Les Pauls using a high gain guitar tone. For this guitar tone, I will be plugging straight in to my Soldano SLO 100 amplifier. There's no boost used. I'm just plugging straight into the amplifier and then tracking it how it is. This time, I'm going to choose something a little bit more applicable to the high gain tone, and I will be playing the main riff to the Foo Fighters song Monkey Wrench. And yeah, the differences you hear are the differences that are there. So let's go ahead and do a high gain comparison. All right, so what do we think? Well, I know what I think. I have been playing with these three guitars for a couple of months now, and for me, the Slash is what's most shocking. These pickups are so crazy high output comparatively to the 50s and 60s guitars. When you plug this thing in, it is like a stick of dynamite coming out of your guitar. It feels like it. The response feels like that. However, with something like the 60s standard Les Paul, this is a very vintagey sounding guitar with very low output, paffy pickups. And then you get to something like the 50s Les Paul, and this is somewhere in between the Slash and the 60s. This is a little louder, a little hotter than the 60s, definitely not as hot as the Slash. However, you're gonna get a little bit more bottom end, and you're gonna have a little bit more of a, for lack of a better term, a girthier tone compared to the 60s Les Paul. Now, these guitars also feel wildly different. The neck on this 50s Les Paul is chunky. It is a chunky boy, whereas the 60s Les Paul is a slim 60s Gibson profile. Now, the Slash is somewhere in between these. It's a little thicker than a 60s, this 60s Les Paul, however, nowhere near as thick as the 50s Les Paul. So take that for what you will. I like the Slash. I like the hotter pickups. However, I have owned another 60s Standard and I loved that guitar. And I also love this guitar. I'm probably going to change the pickups in this 50s Standard because, I don't know, I just don't like where the low mids sit on these pickups and these burst buckers, which, is just a personal preference of mine. However, feel-wise, I definitely prefer the Slash or the 50s. So take that for what you will. But yeah, that is the 3 Les Paul Shootout. If you have comments, thoughts, or concerns, leave a comment down below in the comment section. And with that, you've been wonderful. I've been Fluff. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.